Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining me for my Try It Out Tuesday. Today we're trying out this stamp set from Hero Arts. It's called Teacup Flowers and it's so pretty. Love anything teacup or coffee cup, and I like that you can arrange a bouquet inside the little teacup. So today we're going to make a friendship card. We're going to start off by doing some stamping. I'm stamping the teacup and then all the long stem flowers in the stamp set, plus two of the flower tops. There's stem options in the stamp set where you can adjust the size of the stem that you want. So we're going to do that in a little bit. But I'm inking my images up with my Versamark ink, and then we're going to go over them with some gold embossing powder. We're making a lots of layered dainty card. After I have my images covered, we'll go ahead and melt all this embossing powder, and you can see here the two flowers that don't have stems. So we're going to melt this and then stamp the stems after this is nice and melted. I chose the longest stem in the stamp set. It kind of has a little bit of a curve to it. So we'll stamp that with Versamark ink over both of those two flowers there. And I'm kind of glad that we did this in a separate part, because I noticed that middle flower on my stamped image panel, I didn't melt that embossing powder. You can see it's kind of brown a little bit, so it gave me a chance to go back and check that with the heat gun. We'll just melt those, and here's where I said, oh, I forgot to melt this part. So everything's nice and shiny and gold and melted. And now we're going to do some coloring. I chose my Zig Clean Color markers as my coloring medium today, and I knew I wanted to make my flowers pastel colors. So I thought we would create a coffee cup with a bold color. So I'm using my black Zig marker. I like that when you spread it out, it spreads out to a real pretty purpley gray color. And normally I would use my water brush, but for today's cards I wanted extra sparkle, so I'm using my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen to spread that color out. But I just draw a very thin line. I tried to bring in a gray, but gray didn't make a difference. So I just went with the black, and I thought it was bold and beautiful against, it sounds like a soap opera, but I thought it was bold against that gold, and it looked very, very vintage and elegant. Regal, I should say. Okay, now we're going to bring in some lighter colors with the yellow and just blend them out again with my shimmer pen. For this flower we're using an orange, and I did throw in a little bit of pink. This one we're going to go with the pink flower, and we're just going to mix and match. We'll add green to our little leaves here. And spread that color out with our pen. And those are good to go. Now this stamp set does have coordinating dies. I don't have them, so I'm just going to fussy cut them out. And when I did my linking, it actually there's a bundle available also, and I'll link the bundle, the stamp set, and the die set in case you guys want to check it out. Just makes it easier just clicking on those links. Okay, after they're all fussy cut out, we are ready to build a little teacup scene. So we got them all ready to go. We're going to flip over our teacup. I'm going to use my tape runner and add some adhesive behind my teacup, and then we're going to just arrange our flowers on our teacup. Now there's one flower that I didn't add a stem to, and so that one is going to go basically in the center of our teacup on the very front. But I thought we'd adhere it with a foam square to give it even more dimension. But there's our teacup. I think it looks so pretty. Kind of did a little flower arranging in it. So we're going to set that aside, and now we're going to work on a background panel. I'm going to die cut out the word hugs 3 times. Now this hugs is, I couldn't find it, guys. I think it's from a Hero Arts card kit, but any sentiment you have would work. And then this, I'm calling a doily, but it's actually a snowflake, and it's from Hero Arts. It's I'll link it down below, but it's made to be a snowflake, but I thought I'd make a pretty doily underneath my little teacup. So I wanted, since I put white on white, I was going to color in the doily, but then thought I like the white, so we're going to color in the background behind it. So concentrating the color from where my teacup is going to sit, I'm kind of blending that color out. I'm using my oxide ink in tumble glass, and I think that looks going to look great. I wanted a little added color, so we're going to bring in some more oxide ink and do some ink splattering. So this is fossilized amber. We're going to add a little bit of water to thin it out, and then using my paintbrush, we're going to pick some of this color up and just do a little splattering. I'm not going to wash my brush off because we're going to bring in another color. I'm going to bring in worn lipstick. We'll just dab the excess water off of our panel and then wipe it off of our block, and then we'll bring in some worn lipstick, some water, and then this creates a color, not a pinky, but more of an orangey color, a corally color, and that's the color I wanted more for my background. So I think it's just nice and bright and cheery. And boy, my mat's just sliding left and right. Sorry, guys. Okay. Now for my sentiment, we're going to layer all three hugs together, but the top one, I wanted to add a little color just so my hugs stood out a little bit more. So I'm using my fossilized amber over the bottom, and then we're going to do a little ink blending with the worn lipstick on the very bottom. Just do a little bit of gradient shading on our hugs. Okay, now we're going to layer all of our hugs together, and for that I'm going to bring in my glue sponge. I'm still getting to know this glue sponge, and this stuff, it seems to stick, but the weirdest thing, guys, is when you get it on your hands, like if I were to use my fingers to press it in that glue, when the glue dries on my hands, it doesn't dry tacky or sticky. It dries clean feeling. I don't know how to explain it. My first thought was, if my hands aren't sticky, how is it sticking the paper together? But it's so far so good. So I'm still getting to know it. I'll let you know my feelings later on about that glue sponge. But my hugs are stacked, and now I went ahead and adhered my doily. And then I did place a piece of fun foam behind my panel. And I don't think I told you the size of my panel. My panel size is 3 3/4 inches by 4 1/4. So it's gonna leave, actually it's 3, I take that back, sorry. Let's remeasure that. 3.5 inches by 4 3/4. So that's it's the size of a stitched rectangle die that I use, and I'll link the dies down below. They're my favorite. They work great. I've had them for a long time. Okay, now since I'm going to overlap the word hugs on top of my teacup, the G and the S are going to be on the teacup, so I needed to balance out the word hugs. So I added some very thin strips of foam tape to the H and the U and partial parts of the G. This way when I layer it, it's nice and even and flat. I fully loaded the back of my teacup with foam squares. I just removed the release paper and we'll stick that down on top of our doily. And I think that looks so pretty. I love the colors with that bold cup. I think it, and the gold. I just think it looks so nice. We'll go ahead and add some dots of glue behind the G and the S of our hugs. And then we'll place our sentiment on our panel. I think this was such a pretty everyday card. I love having cards like this in my stash. Okay, after we have that done, I'm going to bring in my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen and add some sparkle to the word hugs. Since our flowers have some sparkle, we're going to add some sparkle to our sentiment too. For today's card, I'm using a standard A2 size card, which I almost always use, but it's a top folding white card base. We'll go ahead and use glue to attach our panel. And I didn't, since we have a lot of sparkle, it's subtle sparkle, but with the gold and then the shimmer pen, the only thing I'm adding, guys, is my Nuvo Morning Dewdrops. I added it to parts of the flowers, the parts that had the little dots, and then I'm going to go over the word hugs also, just so it's nice and shiny. And I did dot one dot in the center of that yellow flower there. But that finishes off my card for today, guys. Now, if you're interested in the stamp set, like I said, there's the stamp, and if you like the dies, I'll link them down below, but there's a bundle too if you want to check it out. But thanks so much for joining me. I think it turned out so pretty. I love soft cards like this. But I wish you a fantastic day, guys. We'll see you again next Tuesday. Bye-bye.